Welcome everyone to another episode of Conquest Call-In Show Live, where you, the caller, are our guest, and you're also the star of the show. We are not the last, but we are the first one to have a 100% caller-driven call-in show that's directed basically to you guys. So you guys call in, you tell us what you want to talk about. We have a few topics tonight. We did want to talk about the latest commits that USC has, as well as an important visitor on campus right now. And we didn't get a lot of time to talk about it. We did on Monday's show, but we did get a chance for the callers to talk about how excited you guys are on the Ents hire. We have our first position rehire, and it's a big one. So Matt, without going a little farther into it, how are you doing tonight?
Doing okay. And, let's have a discussion about Matt Ents. Definitely want to get your insights, folks, watching the broadcast here at the Voice of College Football and getting some calls. Definitely want your opinions on Matt Ents. But like the main, you mentioned it very briefly on our Monday show with Mark Rogers, and I wrote about it at Trojans Wire. And, there's like a symbiotic relationship between the Voice of College Football and Trojans Wire, that, the things that I write about, we talk about here. And the things that we talk about, I think carry it over to Trojans Wire. And one of the things I carried from Monday night's show was your point. You and I have had this discussion, Tim, an enforcer. Lincoln Riley needs an enforcer. And, who were the enforcers from USC's dynastic eras of the past? Well, first off, let's go back to Howard Jones in the 1920s and 30s. Sam Barry was his enforcer as defensive coordinator. Sam Barry, arguably the greatest Trojan of all time, just in terms of athletic influence in various sports. But then as we move into, the middle of the 20th century and the McKay Robinson dynasty, Marv Goo, he was the enforcer for those teams. And then Coach O, Ed Orgeron, he was the enforcer in the Pete Carroll era. So you raised it, and I wrote about it at Trojans Wire. Is Matt Ents the new Goo? And I mean, and people have said there's no replacing Marv Goo. And of course, the point is still readily apparent. Like, who's going to fit that kind of role, that kind of identity as the butt kicker on staff, the guy who not only commands respect, but a little bit of fear, just a little, like the right kind of fear. The person that players do not want to let down. You don't want to give anything less than your best. He ensures quality control, ensures a certain standard is met. It's going to be really interesting, and that is my hope. And I know you share it, Tim, that Matt Ents is going to be the enforcer, because Lincoln Riley didn't have an enforcer at Oklahoma. Mike Stoops failed as defensive coordinator, so we had to fire him. He replaced him with Alex Grinch. We all know that Alex Grinch wasn't an enforcer. And Jerry Schmidt, the really good strength coach, Lincoln Riley let him go after that first really good 2017 season at Oklahoma. He could have been the enforcer for Lincoln Riley. Didn't want him. He moved over to Benny Wiley. So there is a gap. There is a vacancy, a vacuum for Lincoln Riley in terms of his larger coaching career. And he had this failure of a season, and it might have been this Saul on the road to Damascus moment, this epiphany, the scales being removed from his eyes. And maybe hiring Matt Ents is this moment of truth. It's this moment of revelation where Lincoln Riley is finally found his enforcer. Now we have to see it, it has to be proven, but that is certainly the hope here, that Matt Ents is going to be the butt kicker on staff at USC.
And you have to, the hires we've gotten have not been the flashiest of hires, right? There were other options out there that a lot of fans wanted. I don't know how realistic they were, but getting Danton Lynn and getting Ensign at linebacker coach, these are not massive names, but they are very highly qualified people for the role, and that's the part that we got to focus on is what are they going to have to do in order to get the high quality, high caliber recruit in. What, Entz was very honest in his answer. For those of you that don't know, he's basically, they've been running a dynasty, carry on the dynasty over at North Dakota State, and he was very frank. His predecessors were able to go on to jobs, Kleiman, be able to go straight to Kansas State. He's getting a stop. It's almost like he has demotion from being a head coach and coming down to a linebacker coach. And he was very frank. And he said, well, yeah, it would have been great if I could have gone to a head coaching position in the FCS level. But they basically told me I need to get some, I lacked the experience at the highest level of recruiting and in NIL. And so that's what he's doing. He's made it very clear. He's not going to be a linebacker coach for the rest of his life, just like most position coaches do want to move up. And he knows that he needs to get that experience in order to make that next leap. And so that's where he's at. My concern though is let me throw it back at you. I'm not a big star guy, Matt, but right now USC has more 3 stars than they do 4 stars. Currently right now, according to 247, they have 9 4 stars and 10 3 stars, which is kind of a shift from what you would see normally. Even if you go back a couple of years to the early years of Clay Helton, there was always stars in our eyes. Everyone was talking about, we were counting how many 5 stars. Well, guess what, guys? We have 0 5 stars at this point. Again, I'll circle back to the fact that I'm not exactly that concerned about the stars and, the difference between a 5-star and a high 4-star and a 5-star. And what's a high 3-star and a 4-star? I think the lines are very blurred, but there is a little bit of concern, Matt, at this point, especially from the fan base, that why are we not getting the top level recruits? The quickest answer is, you guys, is the process of getting a new defensive coordinator in just happened, relatively soon. And it's kind of hard to turn a whole year of recruiting around in just 1 month. Is there anything you want to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, I'm not a huge star guy, much as you aren't a big star guy. And of course, like we see, like Phil Parker at Iowa, Phil Parker, who won the Broyles Award. He has arguably been the best assistant coach in college football over the past 10 years under Kirk Ferentz in Iowa City. And what does Phil Parker do? He takes 2 and 3 stars and he sends them to the NFL. Yeah, so like you don't have to have the higher star ratings, but. And this is my concern. Where are the 5-star offensive linemen and defensive linemen? I think that's where you need to be getting splashes on the recruiting trail and also in the portal. Like USC's struggles with getting 5-star offensive linemen are well documented. And you have said, and I agree with you, that the Josh Connerly loss to Dan Lanning in Oregon, that really stung, and it still stings now. And as much as USC fans might hate Oregon, and as much as USC fans might view Oregon as Nike University and the money machine and the NIL empire, and as much complaining goes on, the reality is, like, USC needs to be winning some of these battles against Oregon, and we can assign blame in various directions, but like Oregon has the level of line play that has certainly elevated that program, and I was a Bo Nix skeptic, and Bo Nix definitely refuted me over the past few years with how well he played, but the point does need to be said that Bo Nix did not have clean pockets at Auburn. And that's certainly, what he had at Oregon with, an elite offensive line in front of him, that had a lot to do with Bo Nix's success. But I don't want to rain on Bo Nix's parade, because again, I was a skeptic of his. He played really well. He deserves his laurels, but it can't be denied. He had, a top end offensive line play that made everything happen. And when you consider consider a world in which USC is landing the really big fish, the biggest fish up front, especially on offense, also on defense, like defensive tackles as well, to be sure. But I start with the offensive line. If USC has an elite offensive line with 5-star big dogs left to right, all up and down the line, there's no stopping this program. There's no stopping a Lincoln Riley offense if he has the best of the best on the offensive line. So that's where my 5-star concern is up front, especially on offense. USC has to be upping the score, upping the grade in that area. That is definitely a point of concern from my vantage point.
I'm not sure if that any calls have come in. I'm a bit concerned. You guys in the chat, let me know if we're having issues with the phone line right now, because I'm not, we're not getting any calls, which is a bit odd for a couple minutes into the show. Matt, so there's other news. We can cover the Nate Clifton news, which may be this group if they didn't watch the Monday show, or if they've been living underneath a rock, if they're a Trojan fan. Nate Clifton came over from Vanderbilt and as a transfer portal guy. What are your thoughts on Nate?
Well, one of the things we talked about Monday at the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers, that's the thing that I want to reiterate and amplify now, and that is that Vanderbilt was not very good. Now, I didn't do a deep dive, deep drill film study of Vanderbilt football, but I know that Vanderbilt regressed this season under Coach Clark Lee. Vanderbilt was empirically, obviously worse by a few notches this year compared to last year. Last year, just to illustrate this a little bit, Vanderbilt beat Anthony Richardson in Florida and beat him comfortably. Like, Vanderbilt was definitely a lot better than a Florida team that had a top 5 NFL draft pick at quarterback. So Vanderbilt was not in the same universe, not in the same ballpark this year. And so that underscores the point that what Nate Clifton did, he was doing it pretty much by himself. He was doing it pretty much on an island. Now, there might be a few instances where teammates helped him make plays, but for the most part, like, this was not a very good, not a very deep Vanderbilt roster. The things that Nate Clifton personally achieved on the field, like, this was not Bear Alexander playing on Georgia, and because he had other studs on the defensive line alongside him at Georgia, particularly in the BCS, in the College Football National Championship game, the playoff national championship game against TCU and Max Duggan. When he got in for a few sacks, it's because he had other elite Georgia defensive linemen there with him. Nate Clifton did not have that dynamic going for him at Vanderbilt. So when USC coaches made the evaluation, when they identified Nate Clifton and sized him up as a portal prospect, like, that was definitely a central part of the calculus, that this guy's doing things by himself. And if he can do things by himself at Vanderbilt, you get him more help, more reinforcements, better teammates at USC. He can be even better than he was at Vanderbilt. And of course, with his length, that's one of the big things, 6'5", 280, batting down passes, getting in passing lanes, looking for a lot of tipped balls and some game-changing interceptions from Nate Clifton.
Yeah, and the commitment, again, it was made very clear as soon as the hire of Lynn, and then followed up to prove the point. We saw that he brought in Entz as a linebacker coach. And if you've been looking in the portal and you've been looking at the most recent commits, maybe due to the fact that we have Entz now and Lynn on board, but you're looking at defensive linemen and an edge rusher or 2 defensive linemen this week. So that's that. They're definitely making the move and the commitment towards defense. We do have. Sorry, I stepped away for a minute, Matt. Thanks for filling in for me. We do have our first caller of the night. It is a return caller. We haven't heard from him in a while. Avery, how you doing?
What's up? How's it going, family? How y'all doing today? Fight on.
Fight on. Hey, it's been so long. I forgot where you're from, Avery.
Oh, well, right now, because of work, I'm in the country part of Virginia. But I'm from Georgia, man. I'm a real Georgia babe.
Okay. All right. So you told me I gotta be listening to you. So what I missed? What did you tell me that I missed out on?
Oh, man, I'm not going to do this with you. We talked about this the first week of San Jose State. And then Carter told you the middle of the season, recruiting would take a splash backwards because of just all the, poor decisions and whatnot. So I think Lincoln is starting to see that, hey, he blundered and made the wrong decision. As I told you throughout the season, it kind of baffled me because I had so much invested into him because I thought that from a maturity standpoint that he was in a better headspace than his predecessors, right? But obviously his actions and the way he executed alluded to him not being where he needed to be. And sometimes failure or falling to ground zero brings you back to reality. And then I thought about something that he said. The reason he decided to pick the Anthony Wynn was the way that his defense executed and did all that against them when they played. But let's just call a spade a spade. UCLA took USC's manhood that night when they played. Out of all the defenses that USC played this year, that one really pumped USC. So I guess that's what kind of stood out to him, and he's kind of realizing that you need to be physical and dominant on that side of the ball. But I mean, that's what we've been screaming about all year. Like we thought the upgrades in the portal would kind of give us that sense of air of moving forward and being dominant on that side of the ball. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not really surprised about what's going on with recruiting because there's a sense of unstableness, right? Even though we're making terrific hires, we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, right? I mean, we saw this with Clay Helton when we had the Mike Jinks and the offensive line coach scenario, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, for what it's worth, I literally feel like we're going through some of the same scenarios and situations that we've already gone through. It just so happens with Lincoln Riley, it's at a higher perspective because he's Lincoln Riley. But man, get out of here. This is me. I told you this early throughout the season. He's going to be coaching for his job next year, man. I wouldn't be surprised if we went 7-5, 8-4 next year because he's gonna have to pull a rabbit out the hat. Like he's gonna have to get down and dirty and really show himself that he is the coach that he thinks himself is. This ain't West Texas. This ain't Oklahoma. Like he needs to get it together. I was on the one of the USC chats, one of the peristyle boards, and they were saying that Lincoln needs to become more of LA. He needs to be at more functions. He needs to open up practice. Like he needs to embrace what USC is. And I told you that throughout the season. This lining up in the shotgun, 5 wide, all that, that's not USC, dog. That's not USC. We need to get back to under center. The irony is that didn't I tell you guys all year that Darwin Barlow embodied what USC stood for? And guess what? He's in the transfer portal. Like Lincoln got to get out of his own way. It's just what it is. He's got to get out of his own way. He's got to go back and watch some of the videos or there's a documentary on YouTube that shows the year where USC went undefeated and played Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. He needs to see what really embodies USC. When Pete Carroll was coming into the locker room at halftime, stoked, pumping the guys up, getting their minds right. When Ken Norton before the game is barking, getting the guys' mind right to go out into battle. When they come out the locker room, they ready to go. Like that's what really represents USC. Lincoln's got to get back to the basics. A lot of times in things we decide to go beyond what has been laid for us when we just need to stick to the basics. We got to get back to the basics, man.
Well, you said a lot there, so I'm trying to remember a couple of things you brought up. The 8-4 prediction. I mean, you're not really going on a limb there. USC's playing Notre Dame, LSU, Michigan in Ann Arbor, and they're playing Penn State, right? So I mean, to imagine a world where they lose 4 games next year, I mean that's really not going too far a limb. Losing the 4 games this year, yeah, that was surprising and disappointing. But again, as you said, that was a function of him hanging on to Alex Grinch. Everyone thought that the player upgrade, because there was a significant player upgrade. I'm not gonna go walk away from that. The problem is the problem ran much deeper than the guys on the field. It was more of a function of the whole scheme and were these players in a rigid scheme that weren't designed to play to the players that they had. Was it setting this team up for success? And there was a choice that Riley could make. He could try to bring in a new scheme, and possibly waste Caleb Williams, or hope that it's this team could turn it around under Grinch, which is a very, very bad gamble, and that didn't pay off. So I mean, you can look at it either way. I fully agree with you. Right now, hindsight's 2020. Absolutely, we should have got Lynn last year. Who knows where we'd be right now, right? But you can't do that. Matt, your thoughts on Avery's numerous comments he made? Oh wait, my bad. I think you got to mute. Sorry. Sorry, Matt. You're good.
A lot of what Avery said is entirely on point, and back to basics to me is line play, and being able to dump truck the opponent physically at the line of scrimmage. And I think like that's just has to be the overwhelming point of focus. And we have a lot of comments in the chat about the quarterback, and like that's certainly a significant thing, but it starts with line play, and USC just didn't cut it up front. And so when Avery talks about going back to the basics, that's most of the battle. That's most of the equation right there. Just being physically superior up front. I mean, we're going in the Big Ten. We're going to play Michigan. We're going to play Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State. Have to be physically rugged and able to stand up to the style of play that we're going to be going into in those cold November days in Iowa City and Madison and elsewhere. So USC just has to get up to par in that regard. I mean, and that's where Pete Carroll's teams definitely made the cut. Like no one punched USC in the mouth, with any consistency at any rate when Pete was the head coach there. So that's where it all starts. I would say, Avery, like it doesn't matter too much whether you're under center or in the shotgun. It generally, now of course with Clay Helton, you had shotgun on 3rd and 1. All right, like yeah, short yardage you should be under center. No doubt about
line,
that.
Yeah.
Like yeah, so we can just that's a little bit more situational, but like to have an elite passing offense, I mean, you're going to run shotgun sets. Let's keep in mind that Florida lost to Florida State in the 1996 season. Remember that November 30 game in Tallahassee? Danny Warfel got just absolutely pounded in the turf. Florida wasn't using shotgun snaps. You go to the Sugar Bowl a month later in the Superdome, the 1997 Sugar Bowl. Steve Spurrier, he didn't like it, but he used the shotgun, and it bought Danny Warfel the extra 2 seconds to get the ball off before Reinhard Wilson, Peter Boulware, Florida State's excellent bookend pass rushers could get to him. That made all the difference. So like the shotgun and formations and style, like USC's had been pigeonholed as a quote unquote pro style program. Like that, we don't need to be chained to a particular philosophy or style, but what matters is you need to have the biggest, baddest dudes up front. And last year's offensive line with Voorhees, Nealon, also Bobby Haskins, those were bad dudes. Those were some nasty guys who got the job done in front of Caleb Williams. This year's unit, not nearly in the same ballpark in terms of a standard. So I think that is a reasonable way of framing the back to basics element of Avery's very reasonable points.
Great point, Avery. We got about people stacking up right now. Do you have one more quick thought or question for us?
No, I'm just happy to call and talk to you guys. I know it's been weeks since I've actually been on the show, and just being transparent, I've just been kind of letting everything settle, just trying to see what direction the program is going to go in. I'm always going to root for the program, right? But we gotta get it in gear, right? It's carpe diem season. They seize the moment right now because it doesn't get any easier from here.
That was a well-deserved victory lap, Avery. You were saying it from the very beginning. Kudos to you. Again, I'm the optimistic one. The guy over there, he's a little more realistic and objective. And you called it. I just knew we had to ride with it for 1 year, so I was hoping for the best. But you did early on. You said this is going to fail, and it sure did. So fight on, Avery. Call back again soon.
Hey, fight on to you guys, and shout out to Matt going back into the old days, talking about some of those defenses and teams I used to talk about from the day with Florida State. My God, appreciate you guys. Fight on, man.
Yeah, you're digging deep with Boulware. I mean, I remember some beatdown when they went back to Tallahassee. We played a good game here in the Coliseum, but when they went back to Tallahassee, oh my God, was that defensive line really let them have it? All right, let's see. There's a heck of a conversation going on in the chat about the quarterback. You guys, this is a call-in show, and you don't need a computer even for it. There's the number. Call in. Let's talk about it. I mean, I'm going to bring it up in a minute. We will address some of the stuff, but that's this. I try to make it as easy for you as possible. And also, 160 of you guys on there right now. right below Matt's subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, please do us a favor. Thank you for being here and hit that subscribe button. Hello, caller. You're on with Matt and Tim. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Whoops.
This is Manjeet from Imperial. I called you guys about like 6 weeks ago, and you guys thought I was mad. I wasn't mad. It was just frustration. This was supposed to be the year, but it didn't go the way it's supposed to. So I wasn't mad. I was just kind of frustrated.
You know what's weird is looking back on last year, right? We thought this was going to be the year. We got excited about the team. We got excited about the momentum from last year. Won a lot of close games that could have gone either way. Ended up with a pretty good record. We kind of got screwed. One with just unlucky with Caleb's foot, and then some bad officiating. Otherwise, that could have been a really special year. But this year, really, when I look back, when I look back on this year, though, outside of Caleb and some pretty good wide receiver play, and at times, we had some good runs. We had difficulty on the offensive line. The defensive line was the pass rush started great with the lesser competition, then all of a sudden disappeared. And the defense was very inconsistent. This was never going to be, I don't think. I'm not even the defense. Our offense wasn't good enough this year with our offensive line for us to go very far. I believe. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
No, well, if you listen to all the pundits at the beginning of the year, everybody had USC in top 4. The Colin Cowherds, the Herb Street, and I really thought this was the year, man, because I remember those Pete Carroll days. I've been like just missing those days when we just dominated. And let me make another point. You guys were saying that you're not stars guy. You look at Pete Carroll's that dynasty, they were always maybe 1, 2, or 3 in recruiting. And you look at Georgia now, Alabama, Ohio State, littered with 4 and 5 stars. I get it that not every 5-star, 4-star is gonna pan out, but if you got the 25 guys coming in, they all 4 and 5 stars, you're gonna have a pretty good team. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly think as far as I just kind of laid it down for you earlier. I think it's pretty easy to pick the top 100 players in the country ish, Then also where are you putting that value is, who's a top 100 player? Usually it has to do with certain positions. So guys that maybe play a position that are still vital to the team, like you could have a lights out kicker that wins games for you. Talked about some teams across the country. They're not even, what's the highest ranking they ever get a kicker? I know they're not very important, but talk to Ohio State about having a 5-star kicker that can hit a 50-yard field goal. Maybe they win a national championship last year. So I think the people that do these recruiting services, they do a great job. They do the best thing you can do, but trying to project what a 16, 17, 18-year-olds be like when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, my God, it's got to be one of the hardest jobs in the world, and it's not, it's not that accurate. I wouldn't hang too much on, this guy's a 4-star. Oh, this guy was 120. He wasn't in the top 100. Oh, this guy's a 3-star. He's not a 4-star, so he's probably going to suck. I don't think you put too much into that. I think I really like to look at, who are these kids going on visits, like official visits? Actually, now with the number of visits now, that's even hard to do. In the old days, you could tell, like there was tons of offers going out. So you really couldn't look at, they were offered by this team because they were offered by Alabama when they were, sophomores or juniors. And then Alabama cooled on them. Were they really offered by? Was that offer commutable? Probably not, right? And then now, with the limit, there's the no limit on how many visits you can go. Now visits aren't even that helpful. So, I mean, these guys, the big guys, the big names in the recruiting services, like Biggins and all those guys, they know what they're talking about. But my goodness, the thought to say, I remember the funniest thing with me is I think last year, when I had Oregon Duck fans in Twitter telling me that they won the recruiting battle against USC when they're like a decimal points away in this fictitious number system they have for recruiting, and they're pumping their chest up like we beat USC. I was like, on some subjective number decimal list. I mean, it's absurd how much people put stock into who's a 3-star, who's a 4-star, who's a 5-star. I think you can listen to them and know who the top 100 guys are in the country at certain positions or measurables. But even then, I mean, Corey Foreman, all you guys out there, and this is not, I'm not disparaging Corey Foreman.
I got you. Yeah, that's
the issue with Corey Foreman is that he didn't come in saying I'm a 5-star, I'm going right to the NFL. He was told, everyone said this is a must get. He's great. He's this, he's that, blah, blah. And he's had trouble getting onto the field. That's just one example. And there's tons of examples of 3-stars that have been excellent. You know, they've been walk-ons at USC that go on to go play in the NFL. So Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you know, the thing about stars is that if you get a bunch of them, you know, you might miss a few of them the way, you know, Corey Foreman was a miss. But if you get a large accumulation, then chances are that several of them are going to hit. So like you get just like 8, just to kind of throw out a number, you get 8 5-stars in a class. So 4 of them are bust, but 4 of them hit. So that means you have 4 5-stars that are hits. And that's really good. I mean, in terms of what Saban has done at Alabama, what Kirby is doing at Georgia right now, I mean, they load up. And that doesn't mean that all their 5-stars are hits, but it means that if you get more in, you have a better chance of having more success stories. And I think, you know, where depth and attrition really show up in football are on the lines. And so that's really where I plant my flag on the whole star discussion. I'm not too concerned about star ratings for most positions, but USC needs 5-star offensive linemen. Like there's a clear correlation here, right? That USC struggled to land 5-star offensive linemen, and USC hasn't been competing for national championships. Like that's pretty clear. Like that is not a wild, disconnected set of points. Like there's A and there's B and there's this line connecting that. So that's really where USC needs to be loading up on the high-star recruits up front. And that's where we need to see Josh Henson raise his game to justify his place on staff. And that's where Danton Lynn and Matt Entz are going to make their bread. And let's just briefly deal with this super chat. And thank you, Alex, for the super chat. How many offensive and defensive players will come to USC out of the transfer portal between now and LSU? I think the salient point here is, and you know, for everyone watching and for our caller here, to kind of knit some things together, you know, we're seeing USC and Lincoln Riley having a very deliberate process. Like they're not trying to rush things in terms of restaffing the defensive staff. Like the Matt Entz hire took a while, and we still don't have word on Dante Williams and Sean Nua and their status for 2024. Like that's still unresolved. It seems pretty clear that Lincoln Riley doesn't feel the need to have to completely hire his full staff before the bowl game. And so that what that means for Alex's point about the portal, USC is probably going to rely on a big spring portal haul. That getting its coaches on board has been getting the right coaches in place has been the first priority, and USC is going to put its chips in the middle of the poker table for that spring portal window, not this portal window. So I think that's a piece of perspective we all need. And I'll admit, if you don't get a lot of high-end prospects now in this portal window, it does put a lot of pressure on that spring portal window. But I'm just explaining. I'm not giving my opinion in terms of whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying this seems to be the way Lincoln Riley is playing it, and we'll have to see what happens.
You nailed it, Matt. There's when they have the full staff in place, you guys, people are going to go into spring camp, and they're going to look at where they are on the depth chart, and they're going to look at who they're priced with the ones, and then that's when you see this bumper crop of the real elite guys go, okay, heck no, I'm going to take my talent somewhere else. That's where we got Bear Alexander, late in the season, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the traction happen. Manjeet, you want to respond?
Yeah, what I was going to say is you guys are, I get what you're saying, but you look at the last 10 national championships, look at their recruiting classes. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia. You got to have, those stars, you may say it may not matter for 1 or 2 guys. But if you got the class of 30 coming in and they're littered with 5 and 4 stars, that's going to matter. Look at those Pete Carroll championship dynasties. They were littered with 5 and 4 stars. I mean, if good coach, Yeah, you're going to look at everywhere. It's not all about the offense. You're going to get offensive linemen, D linemen, secondary, quarterback, running backs, overall. But those stars matter. Don't tell me those don't matter.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through this again.
No, go ahead.
It is kind of a shell game because the stars. You ever notice how the stars change throughout the year? And you ever notice that the best teams have the best stars? I mean, I don't think that's a complete, complete coincidence. You know, it is a bit of a shell game. I think there is some legitimate evaluations going on. But look, they're looking at who these coaches want. Who does Georgia want? They must be pretty damn good. Who does Alabama want? They must be pretty good. Who does Ohio State want? They must be pretty good, right? Who is Oregon paying $3 million for? They must be pretty good. You know what I mean? These are the things that you're looking at in football. And to say, well, stars count, stars matter in the end. But you know what? If they did their star system and kept them from the very beginning, then I say, wow, those evaluations, they nailed it. You know, even 8 months ago before the season, right? If they did their evaluation, but it changes throughout the year. So of course you could adjust it so it makes look your system's working. And look at the teams that are in the playoffs, they have the most 5 stars. Well, maybe because you put the most 5 stars on their team. You know, you can look at it that way as well. And
those guys were 5 stars before they got to those teams, though. That's the thing.
Manji, you got any more points?
They were 5 stars in high school.
Yeah, you got any more points for us? Because we got to move on.
Yes, and like you were talking about Josh Connolly. Who didn't want Josh Connolly? He's at Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Nice talking to you. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, Benji. God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they get him, that they, if you have a Josh Connolly, who's a massive human being that moves well, great footwork, good bend, of course he's going to be a great lineman. You can do that. I'm talking about in general, how these things move and how, like, for instance, you had Malachi Nelson's the number 1 quarterback and he drops to the 5th quarterback and stuff like that. It's to me, I mean, I'm not totally sold on it. Thank you for calling. Hi, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Gary from Dana Point. I've called in a couple times.
Yeah, Gary, nice to talk to you again.
Do I have to mute the TV?
Yeah.
This call?
Yeah, that might be so you don't get an echo.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say I love the show and I love Trojan's Wire. By the way, that's my daily, if possible, diet of adverbs and adjectives and metaphors that always keep me happy. But having said all that, since you're talking about recruiting, I have a question. To what extent do you think the overall number of players that we have now, the basic our team we have, do they contribute to the recruiting process? The reason I ask that is that I have heard, and I've heard it more than once, that there was dissension in the Trojan locker room, significant dissension, and I don't know whether that is true. Secondly, if it is true, I don't know whether it's been resolved. And thirdly, if it hasn't been resolved, how does that impact recruits? Because I'm sure they talk to players.
Gary, always love hearing from you. Thanks for calling back in. And this is a really good question you bring up. And I think that what I was saying just a moment ago before we took your call about Lincoln Riley this seems to be his strategy, Gary, that he wants to be very patient about filling out his new defensive staff, that he's not trying to rush it. He really wants the right guy. Like the Matt Entz hire as linebacker coach, like that took a little extra time to put together, but he thinks he got the right guy. And I think he got the right guy. I think Tim thinks he got the right guy as linebacker coach. Like he just hired a really high quality linebacker coach. And so to kind of knit things together and to address the points you raised in your question, Gary, losing is not fun, but even worse, failing to evolve, failing to improve is not fun for players in a locker room. Like when you go through week to week, you're seeing no progress, you're seeing the same issues just persist again and again and again under Alex Grinch. That's going to hurt a locker room. That is going to hurt morale. It's going to hurt chemistry. It's going to hurt how players feel about themselves and each other. So like, I don't think it's controversial to say that the locker room was not a peaceful, harmonious place. Not so much, backstabbing or guys being prima donnas, but just coaches weren't doing their jobs. I mean, Alex Grinch wasn't doing his job. There was no enforcer. on the staff. That's the point I keep going back to, that you need an enforcer on your staff. This coaching staff didn't have one. So Lincoln Riley, in terms of like understanding how he needs to change his methods, he seems to be responding to that challenge and that need by saying, you know what, we could just try to quickly whip up a staff, get everyone in place, but no, I want the right guys on my staff so that we're going to get the highest quality of coaching at every defensive position group, and with the quality of coaching and with a heightened level of accountability at each point on my defensive staff. That's how we're going to improve culture. It's how we're going to improve performance. It's how we're going to improve the locker room, the mood, the morale, everything. I think that's how Lincoln Riley sees all of these different pieces coming together, Gary.
Gary?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, we lost you.
Oh, I'm still here. I'm listening. Are you ready for me? My final comment?
Oh, I thought
Sure.
you respond to. Yeah, go ahead. I thought you respond to Matt's comment, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. I'm going to give you one illustration, and I may be totally out in left field on this one. But sometime back during the season, I heard, what's the guy's name? Bryson Shaw, the cornerback, number 27.
Yeah, the
his
safety.
name exactly.
The safety, yeah.
But he gave
After the Colorado game?
Yeah, he gave this lengthy. Yeah, he gave a very lengthy defense of Alex Grinch, and
Yes.
then after that, we saw Eric Gentry not on the field hardly at all. And I'm wondering about that. And that's the kind of dissension that it looked like dissension to me. And I'm just sitting here, as a dumb old guy. But I thought that looks like a problem to me. And then I see that the defender of Grinch is on the field, and the people that aren't on the field should have been. That goes to the atmosphere of the locker room. And I'm just wondering if that can be wiped away. And I'm Matt, I think maybe what you're saying is we get the right guys in there, the atmosphere changes. I suppose that's what you're saying.
Well, I think the simple comment to make is that we did not have accountability under Alex Grinch. Now, I'm not going to get into the soap operatic talking point of, did Grinch play favorites on staff, like people who would defend him in the media? Not going to get into that one. But the point does remain that when guys did make mistakes repeatedly on defense, they didn't get benched, not consistently, or at least not consistently enough. And the other obvious point, Gary, is that if guys did make mistakes, those mistakes didn't get fixed, right? Like there were a few guys who you could count on this defense. Bear Alexander, probably the best example. Like Bear Alexander brought it every week. Did make that penalty late against Utah, but you didn't see that penalty again as the season went on. Like he was able to fix mistakes when he made them, but we didn't see very many examples of that throughout the USC defense. And so with Alex Grinch, you didn't have accountability, you didn't have quality control. Like if players made mistakes, they kept making them for them usually. And so like now we're trying to build a coaching staff under Lincoln Riley where accountability is going to become a thing. And this is a source of hope, though, because there was just so little accountability under Grinch. If we get that accountability in 2024, just think of the upgrade we're going to get just by having basic accountability back on this coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It could be a bigger jump, a bigger leap for USC than we're currently conditioned to expect.
Yeah, there was a lot, by the way, there was a lot of chatter. There was a lot of people that felt that. And the whole thing, you can lose a team really fast when competition isn't real. You can preach competition, you can talk about having the best guys out there, but if you're not doing it, it's going to disintegrate the locker room. And I think that's pretty, there's always, in every locker room, there's guys that think they should be playing. There's promises that are made that are broken. But it just is like Matt was just kind of alluding to. I don't have any true inside information. I've heard things, but as far as having facts, I do know that there were a number of players and parents that were not very happy about how about who was playing and the justification they were given for that. So that again, that's all hearsay. But it's a really great point. Thank you so much again, Gary. I appreciate you calling every time.
Yeah, thank you. What I'm going to do, and this is going to really date me, I'm going to get on my eraser and go to the blackboard and erase the season from my mind. And thank you guys for giving me perspective. Love you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Gary. That's probably a
you,
good
Gary.
idea for all of us. Yeah. Slap Happy, you don't need to call when there's no callers. Love to hear from you anytime. Please call in. That's what this is your guys' show. Absolutely 100% your guys' show. I recognize this number, and I'm going to throw up his Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Good. We were just about to get to this. Well, actually, let's get to this first. So Adam is upset with basically two things. One, the fact that we're going to the Big Ten. He sees instant losses every year for us in the Big Ten. And then here with the super chat goes into the fact that he has major issues with the Board of Trustees for the horrible decision. I will just counter this once and one thing for you. If you're on the good ship Lollipop that's sinking and everything's sinking, you're taking on water, you have no food left, you have no water, and then all of a sudden a Carnival cruise ship comes by. Are you going to stay on the good ship Lollipop, go down the honorable thing, or are you going to hop on the Carnival cruise ship that has all the money in the world, that has all you can eat buffet, full stock bar? Are you going to stay there, Adam? Because if USC had stayed in the Pac-12, they were always going to be the have-nots. No matter what a great season everyone thought that the Pac-12 had this year, there's going to be two conferences, and it's been going this way for a long time. It's going to be the Big Ten, and it's going to be the SEC, because that's where the most rabid fans in the are concentrated in the country. They have the most rabid fan bases. They have the most eyeballs. They have the most demand for TV revenue. And that's where all the money's going, right? That's where the money's going. On the West Coast, we have college, we have pro baseball, pro football, all those other things. We have major cities. The number of people that care about college sports, we were always going to be the table scraps. And so staying in the Pac-12 would have been a slow death sentence for USC.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely. I'm sure you will.
No. Well, first I want to say I want to give credit to Lincoln Riley for the hires that he's made so far. They seem thoughtful, and he deserves credit for that. And as far as recruiting goes, I think, it's important who you recruit, but it's also important to develop. Now, develop the players. As far as the Big Ten goes, I think this was the most disastrous decision that USC could have made. If anything, they should have gone independent. But I don't care how much money we're going to make. I care if we're going to compete for national championship. When you look at our 2024 schedule, we got LSU at Michigan, at UCLA, at Washington, and home against Penn State and Wisconsin. And in 2025, guess who we open up against? Good old Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss before we go at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, at Oregon. This is a recipe for absolute disaster, and this is yet one more in a string of terrible decisions that this spineless Board of Trustees has made, whether it's with Helton, Lynn Swan, Pat Hayden. I mean, this is going to be a disaster for our program. And I was wondering, Matt, since I think you write for the Trojan Wire, have you thought about writing an article calling this out for what it is, which is, we might be getting on the better ship, but guess what? We're going to be in third class on that ship. And that's what makes me concerned.
Well, Adam, as you know, that USC and UCLA made the decision to leave the Big Ten on June 30th, 2022. And so in the first weeks and months after that story broke, I wrote two things. One, I wrote how much this was awful. I wrote how bad it was that the Pac-12, as we knew it, was no longer going to be part of our lives, at least, for the short term. I do think that in 10 to 15 years, we're all going to bring the band back together. Like people are going to spend the next 10 years collecting their television money. And then everyone's going to get tired of the long cross country flights, as you've mentioned yourself. And I think in 2033, 35, we're going to bring this college sports map back into balance, and the Pac-12 is going to be restored. But again, that's a decade away. So that's not in our immediate future. But I wrote how awful it was that USC and UCLA were leaving the Pac-12. But on the other hand,
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
on the other hand, what did Larry Scott do for USC? What did George Kliavkoff do for USC? What did the Pac-12 CEO group do for USC? Pac-12 CEO group was consistently, firmly against USC getting an extra revenue share in the Pac-12. Like, we're the cash cow. We're the king. We should be getting an extra cut for all the heavy lifting that we've done, and because our football brand is bigger and we have the biggest media market in the conference, we should have gotten a larger revenue share. Pac-12 CEO group didn't want that. So what is Carol Folt, what is USC supposed to do in the face of all that, especially when, here are hundreds of millions of dollars, take them. Like if you're in Carol Folt's position,
Right.
would you have said no? It would be like Ohtani turning down the $700 million from the Dodgers, right? Like if someone just shoves an obscene amount of money in your face and you've been treated terribly by this organization and its commissioners and its CEO group, like that's not your fault, USC. The fault is Larry Scott. The fault is with the Pac-12 CEO group. So Adam, I hate this. I mean, I really do. I hate that tradition in college football is being blown up. I am Mr. Romantic, Keith Jackson, New Year's Day, Rose Bowl, 2:00 in the Arroyo Seco in the shadows of the San Gabriel Mountains. I'm there. I'm an Old Testament college football guy. I want the Big Ten and the Pac-10, Pac-12 to play on New Year's Day in the afternoon, the way Mother Nature intended. I hate it, but that doesn't mean USC is responsible, that USC did the wrong thing. A lot of people put USC in an untenable, unrealistic position, and that's how we have to look at this larger theater of events.
Yeah. This was inevitable.
Well,
this was Adam. This was inevitable. I for the longest time was wondering what was going to happen as I started thinking about all of these TV contracts going. I knew the SEC was going through the roof. I know the Big Ten was going to be going through the roof when they came up with their contract. And I kept thinking about what the Pac-12 was and what it was going to mean. Because if you want to compete for championships, we're not building those big new college football facilities with like Pixie dust. It has to come from money, and this new TV contract money is going to allow us to compete with the rest of the country. We were playing with one arm tied behind our backs, and theoretically, we could lose 3 games if those games are close games to Ohio State, a close game to Michigan, close game to LSU, and let's say a close game to Washington. We could still squeak into the playoffs because it's going to be a 12-team playoff.
Well, yeah, and again, I'll be quick because I want you to get to the other callers. But I mean, I graduated from here. I love my college and I love the program, and I want to see it get back to elite status. I feel like this is putting the players in the program in an extremely vulnerable position because of the travel and the competition they're going to face, which is going to lead to multiple losses. And all for what? Because USC wants more money. How much money do they need? And why couldn't they have just gone independent? But again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, guys. Thanks as always for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Adam, before you go, why are you so worried? I mean, listen, I have respect for the Big Ten, but Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State can get through there with maybe 1 loss, 2 losses. Why do you think USC can't compete in the Big Ten? Yes, maybe not this year, but going forward.
Because they're going to be doing across the country travel into cold environments, and I don't think it's going to work out well in that context, especially when you look at the schedule. I mean, if you look at next year or even the year after, Ole Miss at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, at Oregon, home against Michigan. I mean, that's a murderous schedule. And if we're going to get on top, I think we need to be fair to our players. I think we need to be fair to the program. This is subjecting them to a murderous schedule. And I just think it's not right. And for money, I mean, USC's got a $6 billion endowment. And I mean, how much money do you need? And why should that be the presiding value?
But the endowment money.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
I know, but the endowment money is for the university. It's not for the football program. I mean, if you really look at it, the board of trustees, I think, yes, we love our athletic heritage, but USC is not, I don't know, throw in your football factory. That we used to be made fun of back in the 70s and 80s, but we're not that anymore. We are a legitimate top 30 college university in the country. So it's that endowment we're talking about. It's not an endowment that's set aside to make sure that we have football facilities. It's not, the athletic department, I believe.
No, I know.
I wish we had Tony on for this, but the athletic department kind of runs itself. I don't think that they're tapping into the university for a lot of stuff. So
I totally agree with you. It's just that Steven Sample deserves credit for bringing us to such a good, ranking. It's just that, like, when I went there, it was $25,000 a year. It's like $70,000 a year. I mean, USC is rolling in money, and I just think it's the wrong value to promote when we're going to put our football players in a more difficult position. But Tim and Matt, thank you as always, and have a great night. Great show.
All right, fight on. Thanks again, Adam. All right, I've got a Christmas party I get to. Usually I'm down for staying here as long as possible. We got 4 calls. We're going to have to move a little bit faster through these calls.
Yeah. Okay. And these are the last 4 calls we're going to take too.
Yeah. So you guys, we got 4 calls. Thank you. I don't know who this is. LV, how are you doing? Thank you for calling. LV, you there? LV, can you hear us? All right, LV, try calling back. We don't ask you, so try calling back in. I'm not sure if you're muted or what.
Hello?
Oh, there you go. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? Hey, how do I sound? Do I sound better? Because I remember before I sounded kind of scratchy. Is it bad?
You're coming in loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Awesome. Beautiful. Hey, listen, guys, man, great show. It's late over here on the East Coast in New York City. It's late. My Knicks are on, so I have to get ready to get off. But I wanted to hop on because you guys are making great points. A lot of people are coming on here making fabulous points. First thing I think before I even go forward, we got to really kind of give Lincoln Riley a lot of credit. Guys, he's been getting destroyed in the media. You got to say, going 7-5. No one saw this coming. We were destroying the guy. And for him to get rid of Grinch, for him to bring in guys that he has no relationship to start this defense over, this is something to be extremely, extremely excited about. This is something people didn't think could happen, and he's done that. He's really starting to show people, like, listen, I really want to do that. And to me, that's what you want to see, right? We want to see steps. We can't fast forward and jump to spring. We can't fast forward and jump to next fall against LSU, right? All we want to see is steps and gradual steps. And that's what we're seeing. He's a young coach. This is new for him coming over here to LA. I bet you, I'm telling you right now, guys, I think this was a lot like a culture shock for him. And what I mean by that is he thought this might have been an easy, smooth transition. This was a wake-up call this year. And I think it really woke him up. And sometimes, this is like waking up a sleeping giant. And I think that this is what Lincoln Riley has done, what this season has done for him. Now, as far as the recruits go, as far as 3 stars, that doesn't matter, guys. I mean, these rivals do it. ESPN does it. These guys drop from 4 stars, 5 stars, 3 stars. That doesn't really matter. What matters is development. What are you going to be in the next couple of years to get to the NFL? Now, yes, there are exceptions to the rule, right? There are guys that are just legit 5 stars that pop off the screen. You say, okay, that guy should be starting day one, right? We understand those guys. But really, it's a give or take for a lot of those guys. Those guys are maybe, the top 10 players in the nation coming out of high school that are really like, these are the guys, right? But the rest of those guys could be 3 stars. Some 3 stars are really 5 stars. Remember, Tackett Curtis, they had him as like a 4 star. A lot of people saw him as a 5 star. So it's all like, it's all just picking straws, right? The key is, do you have a staff in there that's going to develop these guys? That's going to develop these guys for Sunday. That, to me, is the key. Now, I think it was Adam that came on earlier, Tim. He kind of started talking about the schedule and Big Ten. Listen, man, you got to play big boy football. And we're USC. There's no reason we should be afraid to play anybody. That's why you come to USC. We are a blue blood program. This is what it is. You go into the nation to play the top teams. Why do you think we play Notre Dame? Like, so we shouldn't be worried about the Big Ten schedule. We need the money to pretty much be able to perform at a top level with the Alabamas, with the Georgias. So that's what putting us in the Big Ten, putting us in the limelight to where you're not playing these late games on the West Coast. We're right in the mix where we should be. And then us getting that Big Ten money is going to give us the facilities that we need to compete with Alabama, with Georgia, and it's going to put us right back where we need to be. This is all a game changer. So you got to understand that. And also, too, being on the East Coast like I am, this is guys, I'm sorry. You know, I love LA. It's beautiful. I've been there thousands of times. But this is market one out here. You have New York, you have Philadelphia, you have Washington, D.C. This is market one in the nation. I'm sorry, it is. Then outside of that is L.A. So what is a better place than the Big Ten for USC to be affiliated with? All the major cities in the Midwest and the East Coast, USC is going to be a part of. That's going to blow the SEC out the water. Then if SC goes through their schedule, which I will run down really quickly, I know I'm getting long-winded, but I'll go through it. They got LSU, Michigan, they got LSU, Utah State. Then they got Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Penn State and Maryland. After that, the rest of their games are on the West Coast, guys. They got Rutgers at home, Washington at Washington, Nebraska at home, USC at the Rose Bowl, UCLA at the Rose Bowl, and Notre Dame at home. So the schedule is not a problem. The flight's not a problem. All that stuff is just fabricated. Like, we should not be jumping out the window worried about that. Okay, I'm done ranting. I love you guys. You know that. Tim, you're my guy. Great show, Matt. You guys are amazing. I know you guys got to get some next calls. Listen, fight on from the East Coast all day, every day. Love you guys. Later.
Thank you, LV.
Oh wow, I didn't know I was on mute. Wow. Hey, listen, you guys, make sure you check it out. LV Live. He has his own channel. It's amazing. I know for a fact that he's a Giants fan. And caller, you got to make sure you get your volume down. He's a Giants fan, and he's a diehard Knicks fan, as you just heard. So if you're a New York sports fan or just a basketball or football fan in general, make sure you go and do a search. Look for LV Live here in YouTube channel. Go check out his stuff. He does great work. Also, on that note, we have a Gabe from the Trojan Blade in our chat talking to you guys, doing battle with Joe and having conversations all over the place. Make sure you're checking out his work as well as USCJ. We just talked about the new pickups they had. Is it G-Day was it G-Day Abasiri, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. And then Lorenzo Cowan, they've got videos up. I mean, as soon as the news breaks, you can be guaranteed that Trojan Blade, Gabe over at Trojan Blade, and Jay over at USCJ, they're going to be getting videos out. So make sure you guys are checking out the community. USC community is a great, tight-knit community. Make sure you're checking out their stuff as well. Hi, caller. Sorry. LV's point really quick, Matt, before we move on. I know we're getting through this fast, but LV talked about the trap. People talk about the travel. These are chartered flights. They don't fly like we do, you guys. And having a flight that's like maybe, 45 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes longer, that just means they just sit on TikTok or Instagram for another 20 or 30 minutes, messing around. It's not, they're not getting on a train and traveling across the country like Newt Rockney anymore. It's a beautiful chartered flight these guys go on. And as LV brought up, most of the later games are all here on the West Coast. So the weather, I'd be worried about the late. I don't know how late that game in Washington is, but that might be the worst weather we see all year up in Washington. Matt, your thoughts on the travel at all?
Well, this is going to affect baseball players and basketball players and soccer players much more than football, because football, you're just playing the 12 games a season, 6 games on the road. But I think the main thing is, you don't want to have consecutive road games in the Eastern time zone, something like that. That's where travel could really catch up with you, certainly on the back end of a of a two gamer. But more broadly, like LV makes a salient point that it's not that much of an issue if the road trips and home dates are balanced.
Hey guys, we got 200 of you guys on right now. So right here, right down here in the corner, there's a subscribe button. If you guys haven't subscribed, please do us a favor. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. Make sure you get all of our shows. When we get a big name, we get our head coach come in, head coach, then the position coach come in, or we find out that we're getting a quarterback. This will be the play to come in and commiserate. You can come on in here, make a call, tell us what you think about the move, but you won't know we're going live unless you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So appreciate all of you guys being here. Make sure you also hit that like button and notification so you do know when we go live. Caller, sorry, thank you so much for waiting. You're on with Matt and Tim. What's on your mind tonight? Oh, sorry. First off, what's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Jerome Williams. I live in Lancaster, California.
Jerome.
My grandson actually plays on the team.
Oh, wonderful.
I've been watching you guys from some time. I'm actually from Alabama. I grew up a Crimson Tide fan, but I always loved the Trojans from afar. You guys came in and whooped our tails. And after that, I fell in love with the program. So while I was in the Marine Corps, I came to California, met my wife in California, and I've been out here ever since. So I became a Trojan fan.
Tim, we've lost an audio connection.
And so it's going to take time to bring it back. If you look around the nation, if you watch the games, everybody give up points. But when USC give up points, we're the worst defense that's ever been seen in the world. But when Georgia give up points or Alabama give up points, it was the greatest game you ever seen. It's done like that for a reason. And so we as USC fans, we got to start knowing that you're being mentally manipulated, knowing that these offenses are hard to stop. And sometimes you're going to get scored on. Now, granted, I don't think our defensive play calling was the best in the world. I was at most of the games, and some of the calls was head scratchers. But you look at the defensive ranks and the ranking, and you say, wow, the Big Ten got, 5 teams in the top 10? Well, look at their offenses, for God's sake. No disrespect, but they don't have the best offenses in the nation in the Big Ten. So when USC go to the Big Ten, what you think going to happen to U.S. defense? It's all of a sudden going to go up. Is it going to be because they're facing high-powered offense every weekend, or is it going to be because they went to a conference that run the ball more and don't believe in spreading the ball around? You see what I'm saying? So don't panic. It's going to be fine. Our guys are going to go there. We're going to adjust to the weather and what it takes. Now, I'm glad we're getting out the Pac-12 for one thing, because the refs are so horrible. For years, they flagged us and took away the aggression on the Helton, which was the perfect coach to be soft. And it's hard to get that culture back. But it's going to come back. Just trust the system. We're getting the players. Don't worry about the stars. Develop the talent that you get. Just like Utah and everybody else do. They get 3 stars, and you'll be fine. I love your show. Keep up the good work.
See, this is why I had conversations with Mark, Matt, about that exact point that Jerome just brought up. We're all worried about going to the Big Ten, whereas and we're worried about our defense. It's because we're facing some. Which is it? Is it Is it the fact that the Big Ten has terrible offenses? That's why they have 4 teams in the top 5 defensively, or is it that the Pac-12 has great offenses and bad defenses, and that's why you have USC and Washington and Oregon and Oregon State all in the top 13 offenses? I mean, which one is it? I think the truth is somewhere in between. I totally agree with Jerome. The fact that I'm not that panicking. Historically, I like we get guys like Gary from Dana Point and Jerome from Lancaster calling in with this perspective, right? Like decades of perspective and what USC's been in college football. USC's never cowered away from the Big Ten ever in its history. We've gone toe to toe with the best teams in the Big Ten, and quite frankly, often come out on the winning side of the ledger. So I'm Team Jerome. I'm 100% with him on the fact that this team going to the Big Ten is the best thing we could have done. Pac-12, we were languishing here. There were teams that were kind of pulling us down. We've been talking about it for ages about the officiating in this conference is god awful. And a lot of things people don't talk about also is, Matt, when Reggie Bush and the whole NCAA thing, they came up to, we got zero support from our conference, from the top all the way down to the lowest team in our conference. They were all happy as could be that we were getting hammered. And so that's why, where I do have some nostalgia for the Pac-12, I'm not going to miss it like a lot of other people are going to miss it. I remember all those things as well. So, Jerome, great call. Appreciate you calling and fight on.
Fight on.
All right, and I think we're down to our last 2 calls. If my count is right. All right, I will speed this up. Good evening. You're on with Matt and Tim. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Enrique, I'm Oxnard.
Enrique, how you doing?
Oh, my friend, thank you very much.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say a few things here. I'm sorry, Mr. What's his name? Mr. Amparella, or whatever his name was.
Adam from Georgia.
Dan Amparella? Adam. Yeah, Adam, I don't know what you studied in USC, but what you just said doesn't make sense. Let me give you guys a shot in the arm. The best thing that can ever happen to USC is to go to the Big Ten. If you want to become a national title contender, you got to play the best. And in the Pac-12, it was a joke. Sometimes my son would come over to watch a game, and when they were playing at 7 o'clock at night, we had to go to sleep. And then wake up because he was getting too bored. It's dark, man. When we go play over there, and when they play with the famous Pac-12 network, who watched that? That's why we lost a lot of the respect and a lot of the things that USC was used to. Look, Peter Carroll was there. He was great. John McKay, Robinson, Goss, everybody. Now give a chance to Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley finally realized, you know what? We need a defense here. Because that's going to make USC, like always, mean, ugly, strong, and beat it. Look, when we're talking about going and playing with the Big Ten, take out the games that USC has in Rose Bowls and stuff, Ohio State, Michigan. We have the record. So, Mr. Amparello, wake up. What movie are you watching? When we go to the Big Ten, we're going to be one of the top recruiters and the best we can imagine. We got 2 great defense minds coming in. We're going to get the players. When I have a problem with my stomach, I take Pepto-Bismol. And I think that what was happening with USC, with Alex Grinch, he didn't let it flow. But now since he's gone, it's flowing. The recruiting is coming on. So that's what I wanted to say. This is it. I might not know a lot about football, but I will pump you guys up until the end of the age. USC will be great again. USC will be who they are. USC is the greatest school in football that has ever existed, together with Notre Dame, I have to say. The rest are, Tim, I don't know if you said that they're in the top 30. No. Maybe you said you made a mistake. They're in the top 5. They're the blue bloods of the United States. There's only 5. Hey, wait a minute. I got 5 fingers. So there's only 5. Anyway, I wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to tell you that everything is good. We're going to make it. And we are going to be going to the Big Ten. No more Pac-12 network. No more night games. We are going to do it, babies. May God bless all of you. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you so much, Enrique, as always. Excellent call. Love it. Oh, and we lost our last caller of the night. I think they just decided to tap out. Great calls as always. Great conversation. You guys, right now, really quickly before we go, in the chat, who would you guys like to see as our starting quarter? I mean, I wanted to send this earlier. I thought I sent it out as a poll, but it didn't. But really quickly before you guys go, who do you guys want to see as the starting quarterback next year for USC? Do we want to go with Miller Moss, Malachi Nelson? Are we looking to see if we're going to be able to pick up Will Howard, or write in whoever, fill in the blank, who you think we got a shot with, and who we're going to get? I'm just curious. I'll stay on after the show and watch as they come in. But let me know, who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback next year? Matt, any final thoughts before we get up and out of here? Yeah, I know. Gabe's answer is that he wants, for sure, he wants Will Howard, right? Yeah, Will Howard, that's for sure.
I'd be fine with Will Howard or Malik Murphy. I don't want Cam Ward because he's too volatile. He's like Jaden Delora, like he'll make a great play and then he'll make a mistake. So Will Howard or Malik Murphy at this point for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm with Paul here. I think we get a Will Howard commitment this, was it you, Matt, or was it, or maybe it, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Gabe, but they said, who was the first guy that as soon as the portal opened up, who did Lincoln Riley go to visit? Who did he ordain as his guy? And that was Will Howard, you guys. And that speaks volumes. Even if guys weren't technically in the portal, believe me, there's feelers that go out. There's stuff that goes out beforehand. It's not tampering. It's just, family members, people involved in their trust circle, coaches, whatever, kind of get the word out. So people knew. But where, I think it was Gabe over at Trojan Blade, was the most telling thing is, where did he go immediately? And that was to go visit Will Howard right away. And that's his guy. And then now you got him on a big recruiting weekend coming in here. I honestly think that's going to be who we eventually end up with. Jeff, I just said he wants Howard. So, yeah, really great show, Matt. I'm going to go and go have a couple beers at a party. And you guys will be back here on Monday night with Mark for our Trojan Conquest live show that we do every single Monday at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. Come check us out. And then if any news breaks, if we hear something about Will Howard during, over the weekend, or during the week, or out of left field, the quarterback we never thought was coming pops onto the scene, we will get to them as well. You guys are all incredibly awesome. We appreciate all of you guys being here as always. You guys are what make this thing go. Every week I tell you that, and we sincerely mean that. That's why we have this show. Matt, do you have any last word?
No, just keep reading Trojans Wire, and during the holidays, we'll let you know about our schedule and how we're going to fit that in. Of course, the bowl game is December 27th. That's a Wednesday. So just, you want to stay tuned. You want to subscribe so that you get notifications for what's coming up next here at the Voice of College Football on our show with Tim Prangley.
And two more things. Every time you guys subscribe to the channel, somewhere in the world, an Oklahoma fan cries. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button down the bottom corner, make sure you hit it again, because again, every time we get a subscription, someone in Norman is crying their eyes out. So appreciate all you guys. Remember, free Reggie. It's about time, NCAA. You look stupid. You need to get on the ball. Free Reggie. For Matt, I'm Tim. We appreciate so much you guys come here. This is your show. We'll be back here next Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern to run it back again. Again, subscribe because we might go live as soon as news breaks. Appreciate all of you guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.